Hello, my name is Thomas Corbin. I'm a student from Marjon University studying football development. Today I'll be going through my presentation on performance analysis. I'll be presenting my findings using the data obtained as well as visual evidence to analyse and present possibilities moving forward to adapt and improve. The KPI I've decided to use to obtain data and analyse is effective passes from different positions of the opposing half leading to a goal compared to ineffective passes from the same positions. The professional standard footage I have used to analyse and gather data from is the Denmark vs France handball final from the 2016 Rio Olympic Games. I've chosen this as it is footage from the highest standard of the sport at the time it was filmed. Using such a high standard of footage will allow to see any clear comparisons, differences and anomalies. The reason for using this KPI specifically is because of all the analysis that can be obtained. Firstly, identifying passes in the opponent's half that open space for a shot or space to move into positively, thus forth being able to identify ineffective passes in these positions as well. That is specifically what the KPI will identify. However, it can also be used to identify other things such as effective movement off of the ball, areas using the same grid method that produce more goals, and other attacking based scenarios for analysis. The data obtained by this KPI will be effective for analysis because it can demonstrate the strengths and weaknesses within the team. It can use the statistics to adapt practices from a coaching perspective to improve training of identified areas of weakness and nurture attacking players around their strengths. I've included a quotation that refers to the importance of the different processes involved from a sporting perspective, the principles being the different ways coaches can manipulate motor learning to see improvements and beneficial changes. This links to the importance of obtaining data to allow sufficient analysis. The grid method is a simple strategy I've used whilst analysing one team from the footage's attacking scenarios. It is very simple to use, but is effective in creating more detailed and specific data. The grid method essentially divides the opposing half into 4 even squares, this being the top left and top right, bottom left and bottom right. This is effective specifically for my selected KPI, as it will be easier to see passes from the specific areas to see which passing pass were more effective. This, for example, being left to right, diagonal, and other directional combinations. The following slides show the data gained from each position of the grid method, positions 1, 2, 3, and 4. The specifics of each position are the successful passes made from said position, failed passes, and the KPI specific data, which is the passes from the positions that led to a goal being scored. Each table includes a total. This total is all 3 pieces of data added together. The reason for including this total is to see if there are any common patterns occurring from each positions when compared between the different pieces of footage. Different pieces of the 2 games we recorded as well as the professional capture chosen. The data obtained will be analysed and used to create specific training sessions and drills to either bolster areas identified to be strengths and work on or eliminate areas that are considered to be weaknesses. From the data we will be able to take mean averages to identify whether it is a positive statistic or negative. The statistics from the data and averages calculated will allow us to analyse specifically recurring problems as well as consistent patterns that create positive impacts. Data gained from the Olympic standard footage analysis is the first 10 minutes starting from the first whistle and ongoing continuously. I did watch the full game but decided the fairest way to obtain the data would be from the first 10 minutes as both teams are actively attacking and not using tactics to slow the game. The team I've selected to obtain the data from is the Denmark side. The most clear and distinctive thing to identify is the choice of passes and the offensive formations and movements. The players use disguises to allow effective movement before playing their passes dominantly in sections 1 and 2 of the grid. These disguises are pressing the defensive line and straddling to get a shot off. This is useful at the top level as the disguise allows movement of players around the defenders focusing on the attacker, but also means this disguise can actually be an effective position to shoot. Although in the footage it is rare that specific passes leading to goal go from positions 3 and 4 to the closer positions, they should still be considered when planning offensive strategies as they can be used in situations where a counter-attack may take place. The direct pass from these positions will allow speed and more ground to be covered as opposed to close passes around the defensive goalkeeper's box. What Denmark do effectively is instead of creating a formation around the defensive line, they tactically remove their goalkeeper from the field to add an additional attacking player. This allows them to maintain a normal offensive line, whilst playing one player between zones 3 and 4, allowing an outlet to safely manoeuvre the ball around the court away from the defence. This player is also effective in the passes leading to goal. What Denmark have added to their offensive tactics is for this player to aggressively carry the ball straight to the defensive line using the shot disguise, creating space predominantly at the corner of the court in zone 1. This allows an effective pass leading to goal to be made, as a corner player can jump into the box and get a free shot at goal with limited pressure from the defenders. The passes leading to goal question the idea and importance of risk or retention. From an analytical point of view, it is clear to see that these players, being at the pinnacle of elite performers within their sport, understand when passes need to be simple, as it will be most effective. These passes allow retention of the ball, meaning they are able to successfully navigate across the offensive area whilst maintaining possession and seeking clear chances to shoot at goal. This is where the majority of successful pass statistics were gained across the 4 corners of the grid method. The players would pass and move in and out of all 4 zones, just working the defensive formation. The Denmark side also had elements of risk in their plays. What is important to understand is that although the majority of passes leading to goal would be considered as risky passes, this is where the vast majority of unsuccessful passes came from. The element of risk across all levels of sport allow for 2 options, either success or failure. However, it is more common to see risk at lower levels of the sport, as the repercussions are not as devastating as they are at elite level. A failure due to risk at elite standard could be the difference between winning gold at the Olympics or causing defeat, whereas this is less common at lower tiered levels. For the recorded footage handball analysis, the team I have chosen to analyse from the footage is the blue team in Game 1 and the non-bib side in Game 2. This is because it is easier to analyse and produce data-supported changes to benefit one team, following the analysis, as opposed to a mixture of statistics from both sides. The first thing I identified about the footage we obtained was that the majority of passes leading to goal came from counter-attacks. These counters were not a build-up of short passes at high speed and intensity, but moreover a long pass from the defensive half to an attacker that is in space in front of goal. What is important about this is that the long ball leading to goal was almost as effective as passing the ball around the defensive formation to create space. This would suggest that although the standard is not elite, the ability of the group ranges, which means the weaknesses can be identified and manipulated to allow easier access for a goal-scoring opportunity. By this I mean that the non-bib team would be able to see a weakness commonly form in the defensive formation of their opponents and be able to successfully penalise this anomaly to goal-scoring opportunities more often. Fewer passes were required to create goal-scoring opportunities, which is why the statistical data gained is quite low. However, these attacks did not always end with a positive outcome. It was also clear to see that the standard of finishing was poor. The high volume of goal-scoring chances allowed for goals to be scored, but also had a lot of shots go wide of the target or be saved by the keeper. This is down to the accuracy and composure in front of goal. Referring back to the data gained, it is clear to see the majority of successful passes came from position 3 in both games of our recorded footage. It can also be seen in accordance with the data that the highest number of passes leading to goal came from this zone as well. What this suggests is that the most comfortable area to play the ball from, either to retain possession or to make clinical passes that allow goal scoring opportunities. Furthermore, position 1 using the grid method for analysis shows that it was the least used position in both games. It was also the least successful for shots leading to goal. In addition to this, it is also the zone that led to the most failed passes when compared to others. What this suggests is that the players were either less comfortable moving forward on this side, or that one pass prior in the game mentally affected the players to not want to proceed down that side of the court. What is important to do from a coaching perspective after analysing this data is to clearly see what worked positively and negatively, and then implement specific training and drills to either eliminate weaker and less successful plays from the entire gameplay, or to work and improve these areas. Additionally, it is important to then focus on the strengths that have been identified and still continue to work on these areas to solidify the plays in offensive zones to allow a more clinical outcome. The next following slides include footage captured from the Olympic footage we chose and our own recorded footage. Both of these recordings include passes around the offensive area within the grid method, as well as passes from outside. The reason for identifying these 2 clips is because they include clear passes that led to goal.
Saw the goalkeepers off at the side of the court, but they haven't gone for all 7 players up here. And there's a yellow card for that clouting challenge from Ludovic Fabregas. And it was Kasper Sondergaard that was on the end of that. Hansen. Out to Sonnegaard, the run inside there from Lasse Sven. Hansen! Oh, you just...
This slide shows the comparisons are made across all three pieces of footage, as well as the differences. It is important that these are identified, as it can add to the analysis. By identifying these, we can see whether the common problems came from just one clip or across two or three. This will help with promoting the reliability of the data. This is also the same for identifying the common strengths. The comparisons are effective passing across the defensive line, off the ball movement to create space and break the defensive line, similar passing paths, although not identical, to work the defensive formation, and effective shot choice and technique. The differences are the amount of passes needed to create a goal-scoring opportunity, pass selection and distance, how much the defensive pressure affected chances being created, and where the majority of passes, referring to the grid method, came from that were successful. To summarise, it is important that we use data obtained from the footage collected from a coaching perspective to identify key areas of strengths and common weaknesses. This allows for changes to be made in the coaching to help the team adapt and improve as a whole.